Some of you may know him as Jackie Robinson. Some of you guys may know him as James Brown. To me, I unbeknowingly known him as Toth, but we all know him as T'Challa, the Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman has unfortunately passed away on August 28th of 2020. August 29th for me because of time zone differences. But in honor of this amazing actor, I bring to you my tribute to him, the carbon armor. So canonically, the carbon armor is made up of graphene, which is basically made up of strongly bonded carbon atoms, bonded so strongly it is going to be nigh on impossible to break, which is why it is going to be perfect for representing the role of vibranium inside of the Black Panther suit. But obviously in real life we cannot do that, so I went with a gunmetal color scheme just to differentiate it from the armor and the frame, which is in a metallic black. And of course I went for some silver accents, and of course due to the asymmetry of the Azeroth's legs, I made a silver speck on the full knee armor, and of course there's a full silver piece on the other kneecap armor. And of course I did add in some purple accents in some places, for example the exposed inner frame piece on the inside of the right leg armor, and also the tips of the feet. But I didn't add too much purple because after all it is an energy color in the seams of the Black Panther suit. And of course there is also some purple pieces that are the same color as the ones on the carbon armor on my custom core Gundam. So I don't feel like it is really too necessary to add in too much purple. And also the purple inside of the shoulder thrusters. And as for part choice, I basically went with one of the on-rise armor's V-fins, because that's the easiest V-fin that I could get my hands on. The shoulder pieces left over from one of my Strike Freedom variants. And then we do have the leftover armor from on the chest, the arms, and the skirts from the Anima Rise. And of course we do have the legs from the Gundam Azeroth, which is from a failed customization. And then finally we do have the GN drive on the back left over from the 00 diver. So here we basically have the carbon armor, and without further ado, Atomic Change, Docking, go! So may I present to you guys codename Carbo Gundam. I think it turned out pretty well. I really do think that the custom pieces do work with the design. It did not at first when it was in the planning stage, but after just painting it, I feel like it does fit the theme pretty well. The Strike Freedom shoulder armor basically gives it more shoulder thrusters in order to allow it to be more nimble, so that it can just dash from side to side. And of course the Azeroth's leg armor does really work with some kicking attacks that Black Panther sometimes executes, but most of all it is basically the sharp fingers on the Alice Core Gundam's hands that I've used for the main hands that I use on the Carbo Gundam, because it is basically the, I really want to make use of the leftover hand covers from the Gundam Anima Rise, and that the MSG hands really do look too large on the core Gundam armors. It looks slightly too large when used on the Reborn, so I believe you guys can imagine what it will look like when used on the actual core Gundam armors. And of course the GN drive, I don't think it really looks too out of place. It initially does because of the out of place adapter, and that the GN drive is hovering over the thruster, which I tried to mimic the dubious Art Gundam for having it on the thruster, but unfortunately I just chose the easy way out, and I feel like it does work pretty well. So basically the main thruster on the backpack is changed to a sub thruster now that the GN drive has taken main control of the thrust. And of course every single thruster on the body is gonna emit GN particles now, or the equivalent on in my story. And also canonically this thing does also have kind of like a Trans Am equivalent to allow it to have 3 times the mobility, so that it can do hit and run attacks pretty efficiently. And as an homage to the Black Panther suit, the armor is equipped with the CARS, the Kinetic Absorption and Repulsion System. So just like the Black Panther suit, the armor is capable of absorbing incoming kinetic energy and holding it in place for future redistribution. However, the mode of redistribution is what this thing is superior to the Black Panther suit. Of course, this thing can redistribute all kinetic energy in a field that repels enemies, but this thing can also channel all of the kinetic energy absorbed into a limb for repulsive punches or kicks. As an alternative, it can also channel the kinetic energy onto the bottom of the feet to allow it to have an explosive thrust. So at the end of the build, I think that this is a pretty refreshing experience because I've been strolling around my comfort zones when it comes to customized builds, because I usually just straight up repaint a kit or use some readily compatible parts and make a build of my own. Now my Gundam Aquila custom build is actually my most involved build because it involves like grabbing pieces and then reconfiguring them so that they're compatible with each other. So now in this build I have to destroy some kits in order to actually make the pieces compatible with one another, and the fear of like different pieces coming from different timelines of Gundam is just not gonna work out in my opinion. But ultimately I pulled through. After coloring it, I feel like it works pretty well. And of course I did my best to try to stick to the theme of the Black Panther and to make this thing an honorable tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman. So rest in power and peace, our king. You will forever be remembered in the people's hearts. Wakanda forever.